Okay, today we're going to deal with this subject of contemporary choreography. In Bharatanatyam, when you're taught, when you go through the rigors of Bharatanatyam and you learn how to express yourself through Abhinaya, a lot of people think that it cannot be extended or the boundaries of Abhinaya cannot be pushed. But that's not true, because dance is after all a language, and through that language you can say whatever you want to say. It's a form of expression, so you can say whatever you want to say. There are many artists who experiment with different themes, and they do so on several different counts. One, the first need to change the boundaries of Bharatanatyam and to push the anvil was a very strange one. It's a very strange kind of a demand, which came from critics, it came from certain people in the field itself, who thought that that Bharatanatyam subjugated the woman. It was anti-feminist, that most of the themes that were portrayed through the dance was not giving a very good image of the contemporary woman, of a thinking woman. They said, it was the pining woman, it was the weeping woman, it was the wailing woman, but there was very little that was being shown of the contemporary Indian woman. And so there was a need for change inside the field itself, from the field. Now, when this happened, dancers who had already learned Bharatanatyam, who were already Bharatanatyam dancers and who had given performances. One staunch example was Chandralekha. She took it up. She took up the challenge of doing contemporary work, non-traditional work in the field. The reason I even mention her is because she was a pioneer. There have been several after her, but she was one of the pioneers who started this pushing the boundary, the anvil of Bharatanatyam, from within the field itself. Having learned the dance, having perfected various aspects of the dance form, she and her, maybe because somebody told her to, or she discussed it with somebody, she decided that she had to explore other options within the framework and stretch it. Now, every dance form has two aspects. One is the form and the other is the content. The form is the physical aspect of the dance. So when you talk about the form, you're talking about what you've already mastered by now.
So the movement
vocabulary of the dance form, the nritta aspect of it. These people did not want to compromise on the nritta aspect of the dance because it was beautiful, and it's like a language, like I said. So if your body for over 10-15 years has learned Bharatanatyam, it has gotten used to the vocabulary of Bharatanatyam. So whatever it wants to express, it will express only through that vocabulary that it's already learned, the language that it's already learned. If you had brought up in a family that speaks Tamil, then you grow up speaking Tamil. If one day you're asked to speak Marathi or Kashmiri or Assamese, you cannot speak it because it's not natural to you. So it's the same thing with dance, because the dancers who learned Kathak for several years have perfected the idiom of Kathak, and the body knows the language. So without thinking too much, they can express it through that language. And dancers who are Bharatanatyam dancers can do the same thing, expressing whatever they have to express through Bharatanatyam. So that I call the form. And the second part of the dance is the content. Content is the substance that you put into the form, the air that you breathe into the form. Now, if you take up themes that are non-traditional, you can breathe air into the form, use the form, change the content. Right? So the vocabulary of dance remains the same, the mode of expression remains the same, but you have changed the content. So you're not doing things that have been taught to you. You're not doing the traditional varnams or the padams or the Haridasa Sahityas or Shabdam and those things. You've taken up an entirely different genre of new music to express what you wish to express through that, through the form that you already know. Okay.
So that is what you call contemporary?
I would say that is what was called contemporary for a long period, and for almost 40-50 years in our dance vocabulary. Okay. Now, of course, there are people who experiment with the form itself and say this form, we're going to stretch our legs a little too much, we won't do our hands so much. Now, then you can't call it Bharatanatyam choreography. Or you can't call, then it becomes a different expression altogether.
You're changing the form.
You're changing the form itself. So when you change the form, I mean, you can call yourself a contemporary dancer, but then I don't call them contemporary dancers. I say these are Bharatanatyam dancers who turned contemporary because probably they did not know how to dance properly, or could not, keep up with the rigors of Bharatanatyam. Or these are Odissi dancers who turned contemporary because they could not do Odissi properly. I mean, see, there are ways and ways and ways of turning contemporary. If you've mastered the technique, you're a master of technique, then even if you push the boundaries of the technique, you still remain within the technique. I mean, a person who sees you, the body, knows, oh, she's a Bharatanatyam dancer because the technique is there. You may push the boundaries of the technique. Like, for example, my own guru, Muthuswami Pillai, he did not deal with the content or changing content. He changed the form from where he was taught to what he left. He had changed the form of Bharatanatyam. Okay, if things of Bharatanatyam were linear, if everything was linear, if movement was linear, until then, he made the movement geometrical. So his use of space was very Western. Because in the Western mind, when they look at dance, they look at two aspects of dance. One is time, and the other is space. Yeah. So for us, it's form and content. For them, it's time and space. So for them, time is the rhythm that they keep in the time, and space is the movement choreography that you can do within the given state space that you have. Okay, or whatever, the space that is available to you. And how well do you use the space? Because a dancer essentially has to use the space, the dimensions of the space. So, Muthuswami Pillai, so think about the form and content. He, like I said, he was too traditional to deal with the content. He had the same padam, same javalis, the same ashtapadis and the shlokas to teach, but he changed the form itself. His guru, if he had taught them to do Kirti Karikritam in a certain way, or then he said, okay, why not this? Why not this Kirti? And he used things like geometrical movement, turning, twisting, going in diagonal positions
instead of always
being a frontal dance and doing everything straightforward front and addressing an audience in front. He suddenly started using the dimensions of space very differently. So his own Alaripu itself is so different from Alaripu to Jatiswaram. But I'm saying Alaripu as if you say the base item. The way he deals with space is so different from the way any other dance guru has dealt with space from the time of Tanjore Quartet. Any guru. They have done it neat, straight, frontal, straight lines, in a certain linear pattern. And he did it in a geometrical pattern, and he changed the turning and the twisting of the same adu. The angles of the same adus. So that is one way of pushing the boundaries of the form. Where you keep the rhythm intact, the form intact, but you're changing the way of expression, the way of movement of the form. If you get up, I can show you a couple of those movements, so you know what I mean by, what you have learned and what you can use it for. Okay, for example, Tayyum Datta Tayyum Taha adu. Just do the normal adu of Tayyum Datta Tayyum Taha. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Tayyum Datta Tayyum Taha. Tayyum tat tayyum tat tayyum tayyum tat. Okay. Now when you do tayyum datta tayyum tam, do tayyum datta tayyum tam. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Tayyum datta tayyum tam. Okay. That's also done. Now use a single hand. Tayyum datta and see how it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Tayyum tayyum datta tayyum datta. Yeah. Tayyum datta tay did tayyum datta tay did. Now turn with this movement. 1, 2, 3, 4. No. Tayyum datta tayyum datta tay did tayyum datta. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. Tayyum datta. No. Tayyum datta. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Tayyum datta. Tayyum datta. See, it already looks different. The way you used the adavu is different. I do tayyum datta. Same adavu. Tayyum datta. Yeah.
Sideways.
No, just do it in front and then move in it. 1, 2, 1, tayyum datta. No, tayyum datta tayyum taha. Angle 2, 3, 4. Tayyum datta tayyum taha. 2 times it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Tayyum datta tayyum taha. Tayyum datta. Turn. No, back, full back.
Okay.
Right, left, back, right, left. 1, 2, 3, 4. Tayyum datta tayyum taha. Tayyum datta tayyum tayyum taha. No, you got it, lost it. So, things like that,
Okay.
which you can change.
Mm-hmm.
Do ta, tai, ta, tai, ta. With
The normal.
normal one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ta, tai, ta, ta, tai. Now move with ta, tai, ta, dit, ta, angular. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ta, tai, dit, ta, tai, yeah, but it's not that jaradu type. It is ta, tai, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Ta, tai. Then backwards, then angle and angle. All the 4 angles, same angle. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Ta, okay. So basically I'm trying to tell you how the same adavu that you have learned, which you've been taught in a particular manner, can be changed to use a certain space dimension. Okay, and this was what Muthuswami did. And I think in that sense he was a Renaissance man for Bharatanatyam itself, because he showed new ways of using the space for, in the form of Bharatanatyam. Today I'm not going to deal with the form. I want to deal with the content. How you can change the content. Because like I've just shown you, form can be changed. By keeping the purity of the form alive, it can be changed. Depending on the state space that you have and the way you want to use the space.
And the
angles, turns, curves.
And the usage of hands in different ways.
In different ways.
Doing 2 hands, doing singles.
Anything. Tattai taha. Have you ever turned in tattai taha? Just do dola hasta and this.
Okay.
Yeah. Tattai ta. Tattai ta. Tattai ta. Tattai ta. Taha.
Oh, this also.
Yes.
Okay.
Tattai taha. This. No.
Turn.
No. Do left. Tattai ta. Total back. Tattai ta. Tattai ta. Front. Turn. Back.
Okay.
So basically,
Okay, let me
immediately 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to do third speed or second speed?
Second.
1, 2, 3, 4. No, you didn't do it left. 1,
Okay,
2,
right, left
3,
and right,
4.
left and right.
See, that's the simplest. I can teach you other things after.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4. Things like that. But you do one more. Finish the meter. Eight is something. Okay, anyway. So this is a way you can change the form, push the boundaries of the form if you have to, if you want to, depending on how you want to retain the purity of Bharatanatyam, you want to retain the vocabulary of Bharatanatyam, but you want to push the envelope and see how you can use it in a Western kind of, with a Western mind, the concept of geometrical designs in the space given to you. So I won't deal with that. I won't deal with the thing of content. So even content for Bharatanatyam has changed, which is what contemporary dancers are trying to do. When I say contemporary dancers, I mean dancers like me and other dancers are performing. When we're often asked why we're not pushing the boundary by changing the content, yes, but we say we are doing it. It depends on what the content is. So I, for example, had to once perform for a presidential ceremony for Independence Day, and I had to choreograph something on the theme of patriotism. So how do you do this? I mean, if someone says to do something on patriotism, for example, then you're suddenly taken aback and say, what do I do? Given the repertoire that I have, given what I've been taught, how do I do something on patriotism? So the first thing you do is you start scouting for material. You just start scouting for material. And for a dancer, her first material is poetry. Poetry. Song also is not her material. The song can be composed, but the lyrics, the poetry. So what do? Then you start looking for poets who have written patriotic poetry. So you start asking people, or start reading, start researching material, and say yes. So who might have written poetry that had a patriotic theme? So it could have been Tagore, it could have been Sarojini Naidu, it could have been so many other poets, Bharatiyar, it could have been so many other poets who did. So you read poetry, and then you go through a selection. You sift through the poetry that you think can be danced. All poetry cannot be danced.
So selecting that also
is a very, very important thing. There's some poetry that can be danced and some poetry which cannot be danced. It's beautiful read, it's beautiful heard, but it cannot be danced. So you choose the kind of poetry you think that can be danced, which gives you scope to elaborate, basically.
Now, how would I choose it? I would have to see what visuals are available in the content.
You have to first of all read the content and think for yourself whether the dancer has scope to express this content through the available vocabulary that you already have. Your vocabulary is Bharatanatyam, your X number of hastas, your X number of mudras that you already know. And so can I express this poetry through the available material that I already have, my body language, the language that I have been taught. Now and then you see if it gives scope for expression. Does this poetry, is it just too wordy, and it's talking about too many things? If there's so many words, will I be able to express so many words every second? Or does it give me scope to explore and express through my dance? For a dancer, what is important is that the material that you choose has to allow you the freedom to imagine also, to be able to imagine, to portray a certain feeling. You can't just be doing a wordy thing. You can't be dancing to a poem. You're dancing, I mean,
And fill it with
and
hastas.
fill it with hastas. You know, 1, 2, 3. You're completely kind of focused on just what hand you're doing. Am I doing the hand right? On that particular dark moonlight, this happened. Before you can do anything, you're already, this one. So you're trying to figure out, when choosing poetry, you have to be very, very careful in figuring out whether this poetry will give me room for imagination and room for expression. And what do I want to express? Now, does it allow me the scope and the freedom to express what I want to express without taking away the intent of the poem itself? Because you cannot then change the entire context of the poem and say it's my creative freedom. Somebody else will feel like it can't be your, because the poet did not intend it in that manner. And what do you think? I mean, you can't take that amount of creative license.
And also, you already had your theme. It had to be something with independence.
No, for that is a given, right? You're choosing poetry with the patriotic theme.
Yeah,
I'm
so-
not even thinking about other things.
Huh.
You're choosing poetry with patriotic theme, and in that you have X body of literature, poems, and you have to sift through that literature. So if you're not a researcher, too bad. You can't change the content of dance. You have to have the mind to research, to meet people who can help you research. If you don't know the meaning of the words, if it's Bengali poetry, for instance, you have to go to a Bengali scholar, find out the meaning of that poetry. What is it? Does it have this theme? Will it allow me? Sanskrit poem, whether it's English poem, even an English poem. The poet, you can't just choose any English poem and say, okay, I'm going to do this English poem. There's a certain meter to it, a certain rhyme to it. You can't, play around that rhyme and meter. Plus, but then you have to have the artistic freedom and the dancer's freedom to be able to express. So can I do justice to that poem? Yes or no? So you choose a certain poem. Now once you choose the poem, you go through the lyrics of the poem. It's okay. Now I've chosen this poem, and you already know the reason why you've chosen the poem. Go word to word meaning of the poem. But what is important in this kind of expressional dance, when you're looking at creative contemporary choreography, is not just the word to word meaning, but the import of the sentence. It's not the entire context and the concept of the sentence. It's more important than sticking to verbatim, meaning. It's very, very important to understand the entire context of it and have a clarity in your mind as to what you want to express through that. There is this particular item that I chose at that time, and it just spoke about the national flag. It said Veera Dvajam, Ati Shura Dvajam. Okay, Veera, brave. My flag is brave. Dvajam is the flag. Ati Shura Dvajam. Oh, it is so, courageous flag. Bharata Jananya Veera Dvajam. It is the flag that belongs to my country, Bharat. Okay. And the second part of the song, what Sanga Sumana. It went on to say that all people live in harmony. People of different religions live in harmony in my land, and in my land flows the Tungabhadra, the Ganga, and then the Himalayas. They frame the borders, and in this beautiful land, with people living in harmony, in togetherness, in brotherhood, I worship my flag. Okay, simple.
Who is this guy?
Mayura Vishwanath Iyer. So, okay, again, it's not important who the poet is or what it is, but I'm saying what was chosen. What I chose at that time when I was asked to do this theme. So, the poem is there, or you have the poem, you have the meaning, you have, so you say, okay, so Veeradvajam, Ati Shuradvajam, Bharata Jananya Veeradvajam, I'll make that the Pallavi. Okay. And then the Sangha Sumanita Mambala Shobham, I'll make that the, first charanam. And the second charanam will be Tunga Himadri Setu Paryantam, which describes the river and the natural beauty, the ecology of my land, and how and the richness of its the crops and its luscious greenery and things like that. Simple song, and I normally choose songs that have less words, so that they can be interpreted in many different ways, when they are interpreted. And in this also I thought that, we have this problem of religious tension in our country. So by doing something that I'm showing, the all religions living together, for example, the major religions, I just took Hinduism, Muslim, Islam and Christianity, and in a very subtle way, not elaborating it too much, in a very, very subtle way, that there's worship of three religions, and it's fine, it's okay. We don't have any problem. And somebody, when you start clashing and say, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Your loudspeaker is too loud. Even your worship is disturbing me. No, it's not. Then this person comes and says, no, don't do that. Just look at our land, which allows us the scope and the freedom to pursue any religion we want to. We live in a secular country, and our country allows us the space to do what we want to. Why can't we just understand and be and live like brothers? So by doing that, I'm also spreading a message of brotherhood, secularism, camaraderie, and respect for each other's religious faiths and beliefs. Now that is really a contemporary, theme, if ever there is one. I'm saying in today's context of the way the world is going. The second part of it talks about rivers, Tungabhadra, Ganga, Setu, so many rivers, the dams, rivers, this beautiful land, and then the mountain tops of the Himalayas that are there in the north. It's such beautiful land. Can anything go wrong? I need to protect my land. So in this, you can talk about keeping water clean, the importance of keeping your water clean, the importance of cleanliness around you. Maybe you can even join the Swachh Bharat mission of the Prime Minister and say, fine, keep everything clean. Because if the water is clean, beautiful, you can drink it, you see the fish thrives in that kind of water. The water is pure. You don't need bottled water then to drink. You can drink straight out of the river, bathe in the river, frolic in the river, have fun in the river, the luscious greenery around, beautiful birds, beautiful variety of birds. The sparrow is dead now because it doesn't have enough space to live. So, in an environment where there is ecological balance, everything thrives, whether it be plant life, whether it be animal life, whether it be human life. If human beings become too greedy and say, and go on cutting plants, dirtying your water, then you're not leaving anything for your next generation. So I try to show how important it is to keep the water, the river clean, how important it is to maintain the ecological balance where nothing happens to our Himalayas. It's the imbalance in the ecological system that causes global warming. It's the imbalance that causes even the earthquakes that are happening now, because there's too much of an overload. We're taking away too much from earth and not giving it back too much. So these are concepts that can be explored in these kinds of songs, which give them scope for exploration. what I want you to do is, I'm going to play the song for you, and little by little, I want you to choreograph it. Stand up and choreograph it. And do it in the way I've told you, keeping in mind all these, issues that I have spoken about. And can they be incorporated in the dance through the already existing vocabulary that you know, that your body knows. Okay. So it's an experiment we're doing, and that is how you get into the space of experimentation and exploring new themes and stretching the boundaries of Bharatanatyam. So I'm just going to play the music, listen to the music, because this I've already set it to music, but when you do your own choreography, you will have to choose a musician who can to set the music in the right manner also.